Oh, come on, man! What's going on, people, and welcome to my channel. I go by the name of MrMidasGames. Now, you could have been anywhere in the world right now, but you're with me and I appreciate that. Now, the first thing I need you to do is like up the thing. Make sure you like the video, make sure you subscribe. Now, this is part 2 of Is Final Fantasy VII Remake the best Final Fantasy game ever? Now, if you haven't seen part 1, in the video below where I talk about OG Final Fantasy VII, what it means to me, why I loved it. Final Fantasy VIII, all of the pressure that game had. Final Fantasy IX, talk about them all. But for this video, we are going to start with one of my favorite games in the series, which is Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X released in the summer of 2001, and it was the first Final Fantasy of the next big console generation, the PlayStation 2. Final Fantasy X has a beautiful art style. This game is gorgeous. Oh, like, it just looks so good. And the first time I booted that up on my PS2, woo! This game felt massive and it took you on such an exciting journey. Now, Final Fantasy X was the first Final Fantasy game with full voice acting. Yes, we are talking a cast who had amazing voices. No longer did you just have to read the screen, you could actually gauge the characters' personalities from their voicing. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Yes, the dreaded laugh scene. Now this scene was meant to be rhetorical. Like, the whole reason this scene's happening is Tidus is really low. He's really depressed with everything that's going on. And Yuna's basically saying to him, look, you just gotta laugh it off. It's a fake laugh. If you're in a really bad and low place and you're just laughing, you're not gonna laugh proper. You're gonna do some weird laugh. That's what it is. The voice acting was good. Now let's start with one of the best video game openings like ever. We are talking, this opening scene is mad. So you start off with Tidus giving you the introduction to who our protagonist is, and then Square just like bah, and they show you this huge world that we are going to explore. And Square has always been one of the leaders when it comes to motion cutscenes. And the first time I saw this, my mind was blown. They really showed this is the power of the PlayStation 2. They open it up with showing you a grand world that you are going to explore before they steal it away. Now, characters. Tidus is an incredible protagonist. I love how the opening scene shows how beloved he is, how popular he is, just how he's the man. But then within minutes, making you feel lost, taking everything away from him, letting you see how much everything meant to him, and then just like, nope, we're taking that away. Tidus is one of my favorite Final Fantasy characters ever. He's like that cool jockey who wears his heart on his sleeve, like he's kind, he's funny, and he will risk his life for people he just met, basically. The love Tidus has for Yuna is spectacular. Like, the level of connection between them is crazy. The brotherly bonds that he builds with Wakka, even the torment, like the ongoing torment from his father. I love the material system in Final Fantasy X. 10 is all about loss and love, and within opening scene, thousands of people are taken out by sin. And the craziest thing is that same fear, that same hatred is something Titus has had to live with since he was a kid, but no one knew because of his dad, Jack. Final Fantasy X has one of the most creepy antagonists ever. Seymour is introduced as a good character at first, but you can just tell he's just slimy. There's some vibe about him that you're just not feeling from the jump. And the music in this game is so very special. Final Fantasy X is 100% in my top 5 Final Fantasy games ever. The combat system is sick, the world is 3D, the first voice acting, an amazing cast, it's colourful, the fights are engaging. It was the next gen Final Fantasy that we really needed. And even going back to it on my Switch, like, I felt those moments straight away. Like, I love this game, and this is a must play in the Final Fantasy series. Now, Final Fantasy XI, also known as Final Fantasy XI Online, released in May 2002. Now, Final Fantasy XI is a MMO, which stands for Massive Multiplayer Online. Now, I'm not a huge fan of MMOs. Basically, MMOs are games that you can only play online, the story's all online, and you basically have your factions and you basically create like adventures together. Now, this was a huge risk on Square's behalf to actually make a mainline game in their series, an MMO, which did well for them later on. But I don't have any real thing to say about Final Fantasy XI because I've never played it. MMOs are not my thing. Now, Final Fantasy XII is another game in the series that I never really spent too much time with. I feel like the battle system is loved by a lot, but I kind of feel like this is the point where myself and a lot of fans started falling off from the franchise. At that time, there were so many great games out. Twilight Princess, The Legend of Zelda really took my attention. This was the time where the Wii exploded and everyone was going like that, playing Wii Sports. So Final Fantasy XII is a game that I haven't put much time into. Now, Final Fantasy XIII released in December 2009. Final Fantasy XIII had lots and lots of firsts. It was the first Final Fantasy game to be released on both a Sony and Microsoft platform because it was out on the Xbox 360 as well as the PlayStation 3. From my knowledge, it's the first in the series to have a leading female protagonist, Lightning. Now, Lightning is such a cool protagonist. Like, I love her look, her style, like she's very edgy. She's a fashionista. So this would be a win-win-win. Well, to be honest with you, not at all. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. I don't like Final Fantasy XIII. As I said, I really love Lightning as a protagonist, and I've played this game several times, and every time, like, I've really pushed myself to want to love it. Like, the game is beautiful, it looks amazing. Like, Square are great at making great looking games. But for me, this game has all of the polish of what a great Final Fantasy is, but underneath it, it's just nothing there. So I felt really difficult connecting with the characters. Like Snow, he's like that hard guy, but he just didn't connect with me, even though he was completely in love with Lightning's sister. But I don't know, he just always felt not real. He always just felt really flat to me. Like, why is my man walking around with a chocobo in his afro? He was so jarring. Like, come on, man, this is like some stereotype-ish Square. What are you doing? What were you doing? The stages felt really outdated and just didn't flow well for me. Final Fantasy XIII allowed Microsoft to be able to sell consoles in Japan because they always struggle with that market, and it got a whole load of people who've never experienced Final Fantasy games to play it. I think there's lots of loyal Final Fantasy players who have been playing from 7, some who've been playing from the beginning, who just completely washed their hands with this series after 13. They just didn't enjoy it, and they was like, I'm done with Final Fantasy. This is not the game that I once loved. This is not the series that I've put all my time into. Where have you gone with it? Now, but on the other side, there are so many new players who have never played a Final Fantasy game before who love this. Like, this was their first real taste of a JRPG. Like I said, Lightning was an incredible character, and they really loved the lore and the world and really got invested, and this is the start of their Final Fantasy journey. Square obviously put a lot of money behind this game, and they really believed in the franchise because not only is there one Final Fantasy 13, there's Final Fantasy 13 1, 2 and 3. Now Final Fantasy 13 2 is really beloved as well. It's very much a almost revenge tale. But like I said, I spent very little time in these games because Final Fantasy 13 was not the Final Fantasy that I really wanted. Now Final Fantasy 14 is probably the most interesting game in the series. Now Final Fantasy 14 is also an MMO, but its release was really bad. The game was very janky, the community wasn't very happy, and I think it's probably one of the worst responses that Square has had with one of their titles. Now Square really believed in Final Fantasy 14, and they did something amazing that many studios are afraid to do. They basically destroyed the world and started all again. Yes, they made a whole game and it didn't do successful, and rather than be like, alright, we've done that, that's it, they recreated the whole Final Fantasy 14 MMO, and now it is one of the most successful RPG MMOs out there. Like, stories are amazing, it's got a huge loyal fan base, and people love it. So this was a great one for Square to do. Now we gotta talk some Final Fantasy 15. We are gonna get down there. This is gonna be some controversy, fam. You're gonna have to wait for the last episode of Is Final Fantasy VII Remake the best Final Fantasy VII game ever? Thank you so much for joining me. We've just got one more to finish this 3-part trilogy series. Please leave me a comment below. Let me know what's your favorite Final Fantasy game ever, and please subscribe. I need you as part of the gang. Come and join Mr. Mai, the RPG guy. Please give it a like, share with your friends. You could be anywhere in the world right now, but you're with me, and I appreciate it. Love one all, have an amazing day, and before you go, watch one of those other videos.